I told my neglectful parents that I didn't want to share my birthday with my dead brother anymore. They called me ungrateful and kicked me out of their house. I never thought that speaking my true thoughts would ever lead to this, but here we are. My mother was supposed to have twins, but there were a lot of complications during childbirth. And only I survived while my twin brother passed away in the womb. But for my parents that never happened. They made it a point to act like they had two children who were both alive. They designated a special room in our house that was dedicated to my imaginary brother. They would always buy two of everything instead of one, and put the unused thing in his room. Now, I had absolutely no problem with that, but they also forced me to go along with it. Every single birthday I have had, they have treated it like it was my brother's birthday instead of mine. They always buy the same cake every year, but it's not my favorite flavor or even close to it. The flavor of the actual cake is what my mother thinks my brother would have liked. I tried pointing it out, but I was told you should be happy to be sharing your special day with someone. You have the ability to always remember your dear brother, and that is an honor. They always bought twice the amount of candles for my birthday. Like, when I was turning 2 years old, they bought 4 candles like it was a celebration for 2. This continued over the years even though they had to buy over 30 candles for just one cake. Now, when I was a little child, it didn't bother me and I was just happy to blow more and more candles. But now this has become something that I do not look forward to at all. When I was 15, I ended up in the hospital after an accident with a speeding car. My parents decided to not celebrate my birthday as they didn't want to trouble the hospital staff. But my grandpa thought differently. He brought me my favorite cake with just 15 candles instead of 30, and wished me, and only me, a very happy birthday. I realized that I loved the fact that he had acknowledged me. I began thinking back to all my other birthdays, and how my parents were more focused on praying for someone who wasn't even there. I realized that I was secretly being neglected, and that was the reason why I never looked forward to my birthday anymore. I didn't want to share my birthday with anyone anymore. It was a special day for me, and I wanted my parents to acknowledge that instead of living in the past. That being said, I was just 15, and didn't have the guts to stand up to my parents. I stayed silent for years, crying inside while watching them use someone else's name in the birthday song. But this year I was turning 18. I had talked to my close friends about this, and they told me that I should at least tell them my true feelings. However, things got heated even before I had the chance to speak out. My grandpa was the one who was asked to make the cake for me this year, and he knew what I thought. We were really close and I knew I could trust him. I called him from my room and began describing what kind of cake I wanted. And I ended by telling him that I wanted 18 candles, and not one more, even if my parents demanded it. My mother was walking through the hallway and heard me say that. She burst into my room screaming, "How dare I say that?" She said I should know the other 18 candles meant for my brother should also be there. My dad came running, thinking that someone had gotten hurt. My mom was now crying and explained the situation to my dad from just her perspective. I tried telling them how I felt. That I wanted them to acknowledge me, their living son. I didn't want to share my birthday with someone who didn't even exist. But they weren't even listening to me at all. My dad immediately jumped to conclusions and called me a bad son. They said I was a disappointment and a self-centered teenager who only thought about himself. My dad told me, "Your mother had fallen into depression, and doing this was what made her come back to us. Unfortunately, it looks like we raised you to become selfish and not see the bigger picture." There was more shouting, with me denouncing what they said and trying to tell them that wasn't what I meant. But my dad just escorted my crying mom to the living room and told me to stay put. I knew I had messed up big time. After a while, he came back and told me they had come to a conclusion. To correct their mistake in raising me, they were kicking me out so I would become more responsible. I told him that this was ridiculous. They had never mentioned anything about this, and I didn't have a job or a place to go. But despite my several pleas, they packed all my stuff within hours and kicked me out. I was appalled. It's like they lost all love and sympathy for me because of a thing they heard that was muffled through the walls. I called my grandpa and thankfully he was able to pick me up. I have cried on his shoulder so many times now that I lost count. I am supposed to go to college soon, but I am scared that they won't help me pay my tuition anymore. I don't get it. All I wanted was to be recognized. But it completely uprooted my life as I knew it.